In the Gilded Six Bits, the work week is over and Missy May bathes and dresses. Her husband Joe announces his arrival home by throwing his pay through the open front door and then hides. She chases him around the house and they wrestle as she goes through his pockets to find the treats he has bought her. They eat well, then they go to Mr. Otis Slemons' new ice cream parlor. Mr. Slemons is rich and has a big belly. Both are envious of his money, but assure each other of their love. Joe works the night shift, but when the acid runs out at the fertilizer factory, he's sent home at 11 p.m. to find Slemons in bed with his wife. He punches Slemons twice and then grabs Slemons' watch chain, but lets him leave alive. Missy May weeps and explains that she loves Joe, but Slemons offered her money. Joe comes to bed and the two lie unsleeping and silent all night. Missy May continues to cook for Joe and keep house for him without him being playful or loving. After 3 months, he asks for a back rub and they end up having sex, but Joe leaves the gold watch charm under her pillow. It's a gilded $50, not a gold piece. She takes it as Joe calling her a prostitute, so she puts it back in his pants pocket, leaving the house to him. But she consults with her mother-in-law and decides to go back and stay with Joe. He asks for a back rub every 10 days or so. Missy May gets pregnant and her mother-in-law delivers the baby. Joe's mother tells him the baby is his, and within a week he spends the gilded $50 on candy kisses and announces his arrival home by tossing 15 silver dollars through the front door. In this story, you have the themes of money and love again, just like the Rocking Horse winner. On page 421, Joe throws money into the front door, and Missy May piles it up by her plate. On page 427, Missy May is insulted when Joe leaves her the money as if she were any woman in the longhouse. She thinks that he's indicating that he can pay as well as Slemons. This theme of love and money isn't resolved entirely by the end of the story. The reconciliation is marked by Joe throwing the money in the front door the way he did at the beginning of the story. So you never quite have money and love satisfactorily disentangled. You do have another theme though, the theme of counterfeit versus reality. At the very beginning of the story, this is established by Missy May and her husband playing. On page 421, Missy May is calling out in mock alarm, and then they're play fighting on page 422. That's what Joe calls it. Halfway down the page, that play fight done got me all warmed up. And farther down on page 422, you have them eating while they banter back and forth. About a third of the way up from the bottom, you have banter that pretended to deny affection, but in reality flaunted it. And Minnie May is calling herself a real wife, not dress and breath. I might not look like a real wife, but if you burn me, you won't get nothing but wife ashes. She claims to be a real wife here, but then he is accusing her, with good reason, of being a prostitute later on in the story, where she explains the fact of her being in bed with Slemons by saying that he kept offering her money. The other person whose reality is up for question is Slemons. She's saying on page 423 that Slemons can lie just like anyone else, and her husband is saying, no, he's the real thing, he's got that money. And it turns out not to be real money. You have Missy May, is she a real wife or a counterfeit? Slemons, is he really rich or is he just pretending? The money, is it real or is it counterfeit? And then the last thing that is interrogated as far as whether it's real or just appearance is their marriage. On page 427, Missy May decides that she's going to leave because she feels insulted. If Joe's just going to treat her like a prostitute instead of like a wife, there's no sense in her remaining in the marriage. But remember, she changes her mind when she talks to her mother-in-law. So her rationale is, 2/3 of the way down the page, she met her husband's mother. After a short talk, she turned and went back home. If she had not the substance of marriage, she had the outside show. Joe must leave her. She let him see she didn't want his old gold 4-bits too. So she is determined to appear to have a marriage, even if Joe is not reconciled to her yet. And in the end, of course, he does end up being reconciled with her.